to rise, innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest. She is a decision scientist, leadership advisor, helping professionals to stay irreplaceable in the age of AI by training how you think and show up under pressure. None other than Miss Pav Lertjitbanjong. Welcome, Miss Pav on Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce you more about yourself that time now?
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for the intro. And I'm so excited to be here. This is my second time, so double excited. And yeah, so I am a decision scientist by training and the founder of PAVNESS Unbreakable Leadership Lab. Basically, it's a high stakes performance under pressure training platform. I think the best way to describe what I actually do is through my life story. So essentially, my whole life has been this what I call an invited table. What I mean is walking into rooms or places, situations where I wasn't invited to. And I'm sure that many of you guys already listening also have that experience as well. However, basically, you just act like you belong and until you do. And because of this one thing that I accidentally been training myself on out of survival at the time, and later I had a name and methodology for it. So that's kind of like a setup of Partners Unbreakable Leadership Lab. And during my 2 decades in Fortune 500 and global organizations, I got a privilege to observe, interact up close with many leaders that I came across. And I came to this one conclusion that most people have been training the wrong skills their whole career, me included, and that puts us, in a even higher risk, especially in the age of AI these days. So that's what we're going to be talking about that and how to combat it.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Here, Miss Pav on Entrepreneurship 101, we salute you, we celebrate you. Thank you, thank you. And today, let's talk about being you, being the founder of PAVNESS Unbreakable Leadership Lab. You spent 20 plus years being the most prepared person in the room, yet you say you shall shrunk when it counted. Then your grandmother died when you were finishing the slide 37 for a boss you can't even remember. Walk us through that exact moment. What broke inside you and what finally woke up?
Yes. So maybe let me first talk about the grandmother thing. So basically, like what you mentioned, Daniel. So I found out while I was working on a PowerPoint presentation, slide number 37 to be exact, that my 900 like 100 years 90 100 years old. Oh my gosh, it's been like over a year now. It's my 100 years old grandmother passed away while I was working on that deck, and that led me to this realization that I was so present at my work but then so absent in my life and my family. And ever since that experience, it led me to a lot of soul searching on, like, okay, what am I doing with my life? And I think I came to this conclusion that, you know so when I thought about like what's the purpose in life, and like what I'm supposed to be doing here on earth, and I always think about God's given gift. And unlike what most people think about what God's given gift is, it first felt like a struggle that you have to overcome, and then you go through isolations, and then you learn many lessons, and sometimes over and over again. And once you overcome it, it becomes a burden that you need to share. And if you don't share it with the world, that's there's something like some heaviness in you, and that's how I've been feeling for years while I was working in corporate, that there is a greater calling that I need to and people that I need to serve, and that's kind of the starting of PAVNESS Unbreakable Leadership Lab.
Well, congratulations, Miss Pav, for building this business of yours. You say you were never officially invited to most of the high stakes rooms you sat in. You walked in anyway. How does someone earn a seat without a title or an invitation? And how do you stay there when everyone expects you to leave?
Yes. So that's such a great question, Daniel. So maybe first let me walk you through what is the difference between an uninvited table versus an invited table, right? So just easy definition. Invited table is a table that you already have a ticket or like a invitation to the room. It could be like through your jobs, through your, like, say if you go to a concert, you get a ticket from it. An uninvited table, this one is a little bit tricky because it could be that you are not officially invited to that table, but at the same time, it could also mean that you have been invited to that table, you already earn it. And that's, I'm sure, like, lots of you guys are also feeling this as well, who are listening, that you've already earned the seat, but deep down inside you still feel you're asking for permission and you feel like you don't belong. And that moment when you feel that you are in an uninvited table, regardless of you got the ticket or you don't get a ticket, your nervous system has to choose that you belong. Otherwise, the room will feel it and then basically outcast you. So I think the whole story got started when, since I was 19 years old, when I first invited myself to America, um, and because I met a boy on on Yahoo Chat and we fell in love. That's another story for another day. And then from there, I thought to myself that, okay, if I could like invite myself to this country that I've never been, so like let's just push the limits. So I got myself into a top MBA program. Never really felt like I belonged, but acted like it anyway. The room believed me. Same thing with how I got into corporate as well, in my corporate job as well. I I got into it because I actually applied for the job and act like I belong when I didn't really feel inside. So somehow the story is a little bit tricky, and I'm sure that this journey is kind of similar to a lot of people, that you've already earned a seat, but then deep down you're still looking for the permission. And I think like the conclusion that I came into was that you just need to give yourself permission, regardless of whether the room gives you that permission or not. And once you believe that you belong, then the world believes you. It's all about nervous system regulation.
Miss Pav, you left Fortune 500 of analytics role on your terms. Most people wait for a package or a push. What did you know about 43 that most professional won't learn until too late?
What do I know about what most professional wants to learn to too late? So one thing is what I mentioned about earlier, is that, like, with my experience, for example, I felt like I didn't belong, and and basically it's just the feeling that you need to regulate. But once you start to feel and give yourself the permission that you belong, then the room believes you. Because honestly, Daniel, have you ever like seen people or leaders who just walk into the room and they don't even say a spoken words, right? But then we can actually feel their authority, and that's what I call the biology of authority. Basically, you regulate yourself until the world or the room calibrates to you. So I think that is the number one lesson that I learned from corporate. And then the second one is also um, back to my story about my grandmother, which was kind of like a last trigger for myself, that I felt that I was so present in my own career. I was so present in all these high stakes meetings that I've been in, but I was so absent at my own life. And I think because of that, that kept me, survive over 15 plus corporate restructuring, organizational changes, or like layoffs, for example. But it's also the same thing that's killing me inside, that I wasn't being present to my family. So that's like, I think there's such thing as a balance, that you don't have to like be this or that. You can actually balance that until before it's too late. Hi, Daniel. Um, I
Oh,
don't know if
yes,
you can
thank
hear
you.
me. I think,
Yes,
yeah.
I can hear you, Miss Pav. Sorry for that. So, Microsoft research in 2025 just confirmed that the more you use AI, the less you think. Everyone else is selling AI productivity hacks. You are sounding the alarm. How is AI quietly eroding the very skill that made you audience successful in the first place?
Yes, that's a great question, Daniel. So AI makes us faster, but if you are not careful, it also makes us shallower in when it comes to our thinking as well. So the Microsoft research piece basically talks about the more you outsource your thinking, the less thinking you actually do, which of course common sense, right? And the muscle atrophies. So you get the answer without developing your own judgment, and the judgment is the very skill that we need to keep practicing. So it needs like a repeat exposure to sharpen it. So most people, I would say, think that the threat from AI is, that we're going to be replaced by it, that it would do our job. I mean, like I think these days AI pretty much have done a lot of our jobs and actually do it better. But the deeper version is, AI doesn't just replace you, but it makes you slowly less valuable. And I think that's very dangerous, because when you start using AI for, like, say, the polish, then for the analysis, then for the recommendations. And one day you walk into a room and somebody asks you a question, or like a hard follow-up questions, and you just can't answer. So basically what you are delivering is not what you actually own. And that is a very scary thing that is happening today.
Mm. Well said, Miss Pav. You distinguish between using AI as an answer machine versus a thinking partner. In real meeting, how can you tell the difference between someone who owns their recommendation versus someone who just outsourced their thinking to ChatGPT or other AI platforms?
So I think the easiest way is that when when you use AI as an answer machine, for example, you just type into ChatGPT and say, like, hey, give me this recommendation. So you haven't really formed your thinking. So, like, say, for example, when a a person walk into a meeting and they get put on the spot and they get questions on, like, say, what's the reasoning behind like this recommendation, and then get pushed and pushed on the thinking behind it, and they can't really explain. So basically you just cannot defend your own recommendation. So that is like an easiest telltale sign that you actually have AI outrun your thinking.
Well said, Ms. Pav. Most people believe AI will help those without pedigree or network catch up faster. You argue AI might do the opposite. Why would AI widen the gap rather than close it? And who gets left behind first?
Right. Yeah. So to your question, so short answer is AI amplifies what you bring to it, right? So, like, say, for example, if you bring a strong judgment, a context behind your question, like your sharp instinct and a clear point of view, AI can make you formidable. It makes you sharper. But if you bring uncertainty or underdeveloped thinking or framework to it, or basically just outright use AI as an answer machine, AI makes you faster at being uncertain. But then it doesn't really help level the playing field. And I think the reason I counter argue that why most people think that AI helps people without pedigree, but then to catch up faster, right? But I could understand that argument because basically, these days you can, like, we've seen so many example, like how high school kids, they're millionaires because they are using AI and do the vibe coding. But at the same time, when you think about, like, say for example, for someone like me, a Thai immigrant, ESL, no pedigree when I first came to America, no network, and the advantage that I had at the time was never like a polish, or like we didn't even have AI at the time, but it was a judgment that was built through real experience. And I think it's very dangerous um, now when we are like these days, you basically can just be an AI millionaires by vibe coding, but then you never really have to gain true experience. So the problem becomes that, okay, great, maybe AI can help level the playing field, but what is the future on top of that? Like, say for example, if somebody start an AI startup, but they never really have an experience running a business ever, that could be like so many different mistakes, right? That they make along the way. So I think you can counter argue that experience is also very important as well, and that's something that these days we don't really, I think, put much weight on, given that we have AI, as a tool to help up level most people.
Well said, Ms. Pav. Well said indeed. But in a world where AI wrote the first draft of everything, what does it actually mean to own a recommendation or a decision? If the CFO challenges you and the data come from AI, what do you say?
I see. So to own your output, so the common mistakes in using AI is to accept like the first output without interrogating it. So 34%, like more likely for people who are using AI to sound confident when it's wrong. So and this is according to a research. So basically, if we just copy and paste, the answer to the deck, or to recommend to in the meetings without actually forming the thinking, basically we just don't own that output. And owning your output means being able to defend pretty much like every word, right? Like what we talked about before. And basically, if you so the way that you can do that is, if you can defend it when you walk right in, then you own your output.
Definitely. And you say framework is useless if your nervous system goes offline when the CFO pushes back. Walk us through the biology of what happens in that moment. Why does a highly competent person suddenly lose their words or differ when the pressure spikes?
I see. That's a great question. So, under high stakes pressure, what happened is your prefrontal cortex, or the CEO of your brain, can go offline temporarily. And according to research, your IQ dropped by 10 to 15 points. And suddenly it's kind of like you haven't slept for the whole entire night and you still operating with such pressure, right? So there are four scenarios that typically happen, like when you are under pressure. You could freeze. So basically, you loss of words, or you can shrink, as in you go from a 5'1" like me to a 2-inch banana and want it to sit behind the room, or you could ramble, or you snap or say or do things that you don't mean to. So, like the way that and Daniel, I just wanted to make sure, like in your question, are you talking about like how can we actually combat that, or more on like the description of it?
Hmm, definitely, yes.
So are you talking more about like how we can actually regulate our nervous system? Was that the question?
Yes, indeed. How
Yeah,
would you?
so right. So I think like the easiest way that we can do that is to use like a 4 seconds breathing. So basically before, and this is what I do before I walk into like all these different high stakes meetings. So you can inhale through your nose, like sharp inhales, like, and then exhale one time. So do it like a few times, and this actually helps bring the prefrontal cortex back online. So this is called the physiological size. Actually, according to research, it can help you regulate under pressure.
Well, thank you for the tips, Miss Pav. And you admitted you are the most prepared person who still shrunk when it counted. What is your specific biological glitch? And what is the first override tool you teach to keep you thinking online in real time?
Yeah, so back to the override tool. So same tool that I was using before, and I can share more. Like that physiological side was really helpful to just kind of help you bring you back to your present. And I think to answer your question, like my glitch, I would say actually all four, but it actually evolve over time, because like when I was younger I used to freeze. I had like this bad experience. I froze in a stage, like 1000 kids boo at me and I couldn't say a word. But then when I started my corporate job, it was more of shrinking. And we talked about like being in uninvited table that I didn't really believe that I belong, even though I did. So I always was the one who just kind of like sat in the back behind a room. So I think it kind of evolved over time. And now I would say I'm still a work in progress. Sometimes I ramble, sometimes I snap, but I always make sure that before you before you the bef- before the full glitch actually happened, if you start to notice, like say for example, you notice yourself rambling, or you notice yourself starting to breathe heavily. That's for each person, that's a signature glitch, right? And with that signature glitch, if you spend enough time to notice what's inside within your body, then you will be able to catch and override that that glitch in real time. So like say for example, for me, before I'm about to like say snap at someone, I know that I'm breathing really fast. And with the fast breathing, I then di- disrupt the pattern by the 4 seconds breathing that I mentioned before. For some people, it could just be like, say, if you tend to be a rambler, or you tend to like freeze under pressure, that could be a thinking framework that you can use. For example, like in presentation, if you always come with a headline and like say 3 bullets of reasoning behind that, that is something that can help protect that thinking that you bring in when you get asked on the spot, or actually you make sure that you land your message across in the meeting. And then the last layer is to direct. So like, say for example, if you want the room to feel your clarity, you have to be clear first. So it's like everything is all about energy. If you want the room to feel your authority, like take up the space. I think like especially when it comes to women, we don't always take up space. Like, say for example, when I used to shrink, I always have like all my stuff near me on the table, and I wouldn't like, oh, put my bottled water just a little bit further. Like even that tiny little gesture of reclaiming your space, Daniel, is so powerful that actually can help you feel more authoritative. So these are some of the tips that you can actually regulate your nervous system and, yeah, bring your prefrontal cortex back online.
Ms. Pav, to wrap up our discussion for today, the person who cannot be automated, you train people to show up in a way that cannot be replicated by a machine. 5 years from now, what is the human capability that will be more valuable than any technical skill that are most people developing or losing it today?
Wow. Yeah. So I would say what AI cannot touch, at least not right now, and hopefully not 5 years from now, is a regulated human system in the room with other humans. Because basically, as we are sitting here, I am one nervous system, transmitting the energy to you and to the audience. So those are real energy exchange. Um, but sorry, I think I'm hearing a music or
Yes, because we are ending the show.
oh, got it. Yes. So basically, reading the room, transmitting clear thinking, authority under pressure to another person, or like watching you think. Uh, yeah, uh, is you don't even need to speak a word before you enter the room to actually make the person feel authority. So output is table stakes for now, but regulated human presence is the premium that will be irreplaceable in the future.
Well said, Miss Parv. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
Yes. So, and first of all, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me on the show. So, the best place to start is app.pavness.com, app.pavness.com. So, basically, this is a place where you can simulate your high stakes conversation, and one free basic and is personalized according to your situation. So you can pick a scenario, um, and like, say for example, like salary negotiation, difficult call with your boss, performance review, and so on and so forth. So you can use the override promo code at the end of the page when you sign up. Is PAVNESS underscore podcast, PAVNESS underscore podcast.
Well said, Miss Parv. And before I will let you go, I have one more question. And what would you tell to your 30-year-old self if you could go back to that Pav was finishing the slide number 37 for a boss you can't remember? What one truth you would force her to hear, and what would you tell her to stop waiting for?
I see. So what would I tell her is it's okay to feel anxious, to feel nervous, to feel like you didn't belong. Um, but what you need to stop waiting for is for people to give you permission, because the true permission is something that you need to first give within yourself. It doesn't matter if people, with any invitation or how many people will tell you that you belong if you don't feel it. So that's what to stop, and then start giving yourself the permission that you belong, and then the world will believe you.
Well said, Miss Pav, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Moticam people, see you soon.